Hello, it's Teacher Jocelyn. I have some stories for you today. Two stories that are two of my favorite of all time. And they're both on one theme. See if you can think of what it is while I'm reading the stories. The first one, you probably know from school, is Red, a Crayon story. But in case you don't know it, I'll read all the parts anyway. What? Uh-oh. Why do you think they're saying that? It's called Red, but it's clearly blue. Okay, and the author is Michael Hall. It says, "This is a story of a crayon I know. I wrote it for you. Hey, I'm friends with that crayon. I love this story." I do too. Michael Hall, Red, a Crayon story as told by me, the pencil. He was red. Really? But he wasn't very good at it. Ooh, oh dear. What's the problem? His teacher thought he needed more practice. "I'll draw a red strawberry and then you draw a red strawberry. You can do this, really." But he couldn't really. Like this? Oh my, let's try again. His mother thought he needed to mix with the other colors. "Why don't you two go out and draw a nice round orange? A really big one, a really orange one." Well, yellow and red would make orange, right? But they made a big greenish one. Yuck. Oops. His grandparents thought he wasn't warm enough. "Your class is making self-portraits for Grandparents' Night. Wear this warm red scarf." "Nice, it's so you." I like how the grandparent crayons are short because they've been used up a lot. It's kind of fun. And the kid crayons are really tall. But it so wasn't. By Goldie, teal, purple, red, orange, green. Oh dear me. Well, that didn't turn out quite right. Everyone seemed to have something to say. "Sometimes I wonder if he's really red at all." "Don't be silly, it says red on his label. It came that way from the factory." "Frankly, I don't think he's very bright." "Well, I think he's lazy." "Right, he's got to press harder. Really apply himself." "Give him time, he'll catch on." "Of course he will." But he didn't catch on. Green frog, black sheep, brown cow, red... Ugh. All the art supplies wanted to help. The masking tape thought he was broken inside. "This'll help keep you together." The scissors thought the label was too tight. "One snip should do it." I thought he wasn't sharp enough. "Hold still now." But even with all our help and all his hard work, he just couldn't get the hang of it. Ugh. Must be really frustrating. One day he met a new friend. "Will you make a blue ocean for my boat?" "I can't, I'm red." "Will you try it?" So he did. "Thank you, it's perfect." "You're welcome. It was easy." And he didn't stop there. "Bluebells, blue jeans, bluebird, blue whale, blueberries, I'm blue!" He was not red, blue, and everyone was talking. "My son is brilliant. Who could have known he was blue? I always said he was blue. It was obvious. His blue ocean really lifted me. All of his work makes me happy. His blue strawberries are my favorites. He's so intense. I'm gonna make a green lizard with him, a really big one. I hear he's working on a huge new project. He's really reaching for the sky." And he really was. This is for Deborah. Do you know authors sometimes make a dedication in their book to somebody special that they want to tell it to? And this one is my very favorite from a long, long time. It's called The Big Orange Splot. And it's by Daniel Manus Pinkwater. He has other books, but they're a little bit hard to find. I found some at the library, though. And both of these books are authored and illustrated by the same person. Sometimes there's different author and illustrator, but these ones all have the same. Mr. Plumbean lived on a street where all the houses were the same. He liked it that way. So did everybody else on Mr. Plumbean's street. This is a neat street, they would say. And then one day, a seagull flew over Mr. Plumbean's house. He was carrying a can of bright orange paint. No one knows why. And he dropped the can, no one knows why, right over Mr. Plumbean's house. It made a big orange splot on Mr. Plumbean's house. Oh, too bad, everybody said. Mr. Plumbean will have to paint his house again. I suppose I will, said Mr. Plumbean. But he didn't paint his house right away. He looked at the big orange spot for a long time, and then he went about his business. The neighbors got tired of seeing that big orange spot. Someone said, Mr. Plumbean, we wish you'd get around to painting your house. Okay, said Mr. Plumbean. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. He painted at night because it was cooler. When the paint was gone, the roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange splot was still there. And then he got some more paint. He got red paint, yellow paint, green paint, and purple paint. In the morning, the other people on the street came out of their houses. Their houses were all the same. But Mr. Plumbean's house was like a rainbow. It was like a jungle. It was like an explosion. Can you see it over there? When you're walking around your neighborhood, do you ever see a house like that? There was the big orange spot, and there were little orange spots, and there were stripes, and there were pictures of elephants and lions and pretty girls and steam shovels. The people said, Plumbean has popped his cork, flipped his wig, blown his stack, and dropped his stopper. They went away muttering. That night, Mr. Plumbean bought carpenter's tools. That night, he built a tower on top of his roof, and he painted a clock on the tower. The next day, the people said, Plumbean has gushed his mush, lost his marbles, and slipped his hawser. They decided they would pretend not to notice. Is that going to work? That very night, Mr. Plumbean got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baobabs, thorn bushes, onions, and frangipani. In the morning, he bought a hammock and an alligator. When the other people came out of their houses, they saw Mr. Plumbean swinging in a hammock between two palm trees. They saw an alligator lying in the grass. Mr. Plumbean was drinking lemonade. Plumbean has gone too far. This used to be a neat street. Plumbean, what have you done to your house? The people shouted. My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams, Mr. Plumbean said. The people went away. They asked the man who lives next door to Mr. Plumbean to go and have a talk with him. Tell him that we all liked it here before he changed his house. Tell him that his house has to be the same as ours so we can have a neat street. Some neighborhoods really are like that. The man went to see Mr. Plumbean that evening. They sat under the palm trees, drinking lemonade and talking all night long. Early the next morning, the man went out to get lumber and rope and nails and paint. And when the people came out of their houses, they saw a red and yellow ship next door to the house of Mr. Plumbean. What have you done to your house? They shouted at the man. My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams, said the man who had always loved ships. He's Plumbing, the people said. He's got bees in his bonnet, bats in his belfry, and knots in his noodle. And then one by one, they went to see Mr. Plumbing late at night. They would sit under the palm trees and drink lemonade and talk about their dreams. And whenever anybody visited Mr. Plumbing's house, the very next day, that person would set about changing his own house to fit his dreams. Whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbing and his neighbors, the stranger would say, "This is not a neat street." And then all the people would say, "Our street is us and we are it. Our street is where we like to be and it looks like all our dreams." That's how it looks at night. So I noticed when I was reading this story and right after the other one that they both have a lot of colors in them, but that's not the thing I was thinking about in common. The thing that I was thinking about for these two books that they have in common is that they are both about characters who need to be who they are no matter what other people think about them. And that's why those books are my very favorites. Okay, I'll see you next time.